The Oracle ASMR. Hey lovelies, it's me, the Oracle. I hope you're well, and I have something a little different for you. So I thought I'd do more of these where I'm just talking with my normal voice and hopefully it's still going to be a relaxing ASMR audio. So you can put this on, put your feet up, chill. Maybe I can even bore you to sleep, you never know. But I'm hoping that I can give you some tingles and really just help you unwind and chill out. So I thought I would do this, I want to say commentary, but I don't know if I can go through the whole movie commenting on certain bits, mainly because it would be kind of boring because I can't actually upload the whole thing, of course, on YouTube, YouTube being YouTube, and so it would be kind of boring, although it would have been cool. So I'm gonna make this kind of, so I might put some clips here and there, but I'll be talking about you know, why I like this film, what parts I like about it. Sorry about the squeaky chair, hopefully that's adding some atmosphere to this. And also just trying to explain some things because there's so many aspects to this. So you probably guessed from the title, this is a Donnie Darko film review / commentary, and this is ASMR, so if you just happen to land here, this is meant to sort of be relaxing, and I am no expert, so please, you know, all these views are my own, etc. So let's talk a little bit about the film. So if you haven't seen it, for the benefit of those that haven't, this is a film that came out in 2001. It was directed by Richard Kelly, and it stars lots and lots of famous names that we now know. Really good cast actually. So we had Jake Gyllenhaal. Actually, interesting fact, we had Maggie Gyllenhaal too, who played his sister and is actually his sister, so that's kind of cool. We had, trying to go off the top of my head, Patrick Swayze, Drew Barrymore, Seth Rogen, Beth Grant, so many, and there's probably more and I've probably forgotten them, but it is packed with a lot of talent. And this film was set in the 1980s, I believe, and it for me anyway, when I watched this, it was very much before it sort of blew up. So this was, like when I watched it, it was quite indie. No one had really heard about it. I can't even remember how I got it. I don't know if it was a video. It's back in the days when people actually rented video, you know, the actual videos, blockbusters, that kind of thing. And maybe it was that. I think it was. So yeah, so it was up my street because it was different, it was indie, it was you know, it wasn't a blockbuster or anything like that at the time. And I remember watching it and it was just so strange. It was strange, but it was still enjoyable because I watched it through to the end. And among the cast, obviously the cast is cool, had a great soundtrack, it really does, really fitting for the time, the era as well. And then it has all these layers, so it's one of these films that just have layers upon layers, and there's lots of things going on, you know. So yeah, you've got this movie when you watch it the first time, you're just like, what, you know, how weird. But then as you peel back the layers, there's a lot more, there's meanings to things, you know. You watch it again, you realise, oh, I missed that. And it's a really well written, put together, filmed movie, and it is one of my favourites, so it goes right up there at the top. I recently rewatched it. I don't know how many times I've watched this film, but it just reminded me why it is actually at the top. So that's my little intro. I say little, that's my little intro on this. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to have it playing, and then I'll just kind of talk about the bits and try to explain what I make of it. And as I said, these are my own opinions, and you know, everyone's got their own, and there's tons of videos out there on YouTube with explanations and, you know, dissecting this to pieces. So, you know, I'm not saying this is it, and you might make different things out of it after you've watched it as well. So just take this as a relaxing commentary by the Oracle, and if you get to the end, then congratulations. And if you don't, then yay, congratulations too, because then that's my work done. So I'm gonna turn this on. Oh, before I finish, so do let me know if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like me to do more audios like this as well. Obviously this is just one of many films. I could probably do more like this, but it's really if you enjoy it. So yeah, just let me know in the comments. Please comment, don't forget to like, and yeah, let's get to it. So what is Donnie Darko about? So Donnie Darko is obviously about a boy named Donnie who is seeing visions about a bunny named Frank, and Frank is giving him visions and telling him things, specifically telling him that the world is going to end. And initially it does look like Donnie could be maybe going a little crazy, maybe his meds are causing him to see all these strange things. But as I said, there are lots of layers going on, and you will make of this whatever you make of it, especially if you haven't seen this already. I do recommend you see it, and if you want to try and figure out what's going on yourself, then maybe this isn't the best, because I'm just going to go on with some of the theories. So it is going to spoil you, basically. So yeah, it's a trippy one. It is a trippy one. It starts off so mediocre, but then things get a little weird. Okay, so I've just started the film, and I could really do with some popcorn, but I don't have any. So I don't have popcorn. that sucks. Have some water. And I could sit here for the 2 hours that it will take to go through this whole movie, and as I said, it's not going to be as fun for you, so I will be skipping bits. By the way, the opening of this movie is great. Did I mention how good the soundtrack is? Please do check out the soundtrack. What's interesting about this film as well is that even aside from all the other stuff that goes on, it's still your typical sort of family, and you've got topics that are quite relatable for some. For example, school bullying, adolescent issues. You got family drama. Donnie's obviously going through something. He's seeing a therapist, and he's obviously prescribed medication which he isn't actually taking in the beginning, and he's got his sister who's throwing jabs at him. He's throwing them back, just your typical typical interaction, I suppose. And there's something that I noticed again, actually. So there's a clip when Donnie comes back in. You can see he's in his pajamas, so he's clearly been out, and it sounds like he does have these outings. He goes places in the night, and on the fridge, on the board, it says, "Where is Donnie?" So then there's this scene after where Donnie's mum goes and asks him, "What's happened to my son?" And for me, I was seeing these as little seeds. It really didn't mean much the first couple of watches maybe, but I call these seeds. So these are little seeds that are being planted, because as you watch this movie and you're actually just sort of understanding what all these different things mean, it really does all tie in together. So it's essentially little tiny seeds for a build-up of this whole movie. So I've already mentioned that Donnie clearly is hearing things, seeing things, and we eventually get to meet one of the other main characters in this. The bunny that I mentioned earlier isn't a cute fluffy bunny that we might all be familiar with, but he's in a bunny suit, so we'll call him Bunny for now, Bunny Frank. So the voice of Bunny Frank has given me ideas for other ASMR videos, maybe Halloween, because apparently I freak people out all the time, so I might do something cool with that, maybe a Frank inspired ASMR video. But yeah, so Donnie is getting called. This is one of the scenes. So Donnie hears a voice, and it looks like this is how he actually ends up outside of the house at night, because he's hearing voices and he seems to be asleep. So he's obviously sleepwalking as well as hallucinating. And this time around, so Donnie is outside and he meets Frank, and he's staring at Frank, and Frank says it's 20 days, 6 hours, and 42 minutes and 12 seconds, and this is when the world is going to end. This is where it sort of gets weird in this movie, because it's almost like there's a shift. So where it's all sort of normal-ish, now if you're just thinking what is going on, and then for those who have looked into it, and then you've got these other elements, you know, the other layers to this movie. You know, this is when we sort of have the dimensions, creating a different dimension, the time travel. You know, this is sort of the shift, because we hear a really big crash in the house, in Donnie's house, and obviously Donnie isn't in the house at the time. We can gather that because he was outside talking to Frank, but he wakes up on a golf field, so it's clear that Donnie wasn't in the house. Now, there are, obviously his family were, but we soon learn that there was a plane engine that landed on Donnie's house, and it is quite significant. It doesn't, I guess, look it so far, because it's just one of these fluke accidents. You could just say, wow, like, that's, wow, you know, it landed in Donnie's room. So had he been in his bed sleeping like he would have been, then that would have been Donnie. So it's an interesting part to this movie, and I won't say too much just yet, because there are explanations, and lots of different explanations as to why it happened like that. Now, I'm going to stop there for a moment, because I'm going to fast forward it a little bit. If you really do want to get into this, there is a book called The Philosophy of Time Travel, and it is a fictional book, but it's a book that I think explains, or could explain, a lot of what is happening here, especially with the different dimensions, and with how these things that happen are affecting Donnie, and in fact why Donnie has to do the things that he eventually does in the film. So it's just interesting. I mean, even if you didn't delve into that side of things, it's still quite interesting just to get some background into, you know, what did they mean when they wrote it like that? What was the meaning of the plane? Why just the engine as well? Because that's the thing about this. It's just an engine. There isn't a whole plane somewhere else. So from the students that we meet in Donnie's school to the teachers, we've got some really cool actors and actresses here. And as I said, I haven't even mentioned all of them. I just mentioned just a few, but this was really well done, because even though the film has, you know, some trippy scenes, watching it again and looking at it again, it's actually quite funny in parts as well. There's some sort of funny scenes. And I think, so I'm not going to go through absolutely all of them, because we do see a lot of things that happen in the school, and I'm trying to just focus on the main bits, because I could be here forever just talking about it. So let's talk about some of the characters, because some of the characters that we meet are obviously closer to Donnie and play a larger part in the whole storyline. So we will be seeing more of 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧, who is actually a teacher. We also have Gretchen, and this is Donnie's friend / love interest. There are other characters, other friends of Donnie's, but so far these are the two main characters, and we see some things that sort of give us clues into how their relationship will develop. The other interesting thing that we see a scene of is the engines. The engine comes up again, and Donnie's talking to his dad in the car, and they're talking about repairs to the house, but more importantly, the fact that they don't know where the engines actually come from. There's no serial number or blah blah blah, and that they, he had to sign something to say he's not allowed to talk about it, not allowed to talk about something that they don't know. But he can mention it to his therapist, which this sort of explains a little bit more about the fact that this engine isn't necessarily from this universe. So it's just an engine which clearly was part of a plane, but it's a plane that nobody can find anymore. So that's a key part as well that we need to sort of hold on to. There's another scene where Donnie is back at school and they're watching one of these instructional videos. Oh god, did I hate those. The really cheesy ones. These normally starred Patrick Swayze, and it was about the fear and love line. We see a lot of those, but I think it is prominent because all these bits sort of just tie together. Donnie is still getting a lot of visions. So he's been given visions by Frank, the bunny, and we see a scene where Donnie's got an axe on his shoulder, and we've got these dates, the 6th of October. It jumps to school, and school is out because of a flood. Somebody vandalized the pipes. So clearly Donnie is being told to do things. So Frank is instructing Donnie, whether Donnie is sleepwalking and not conscious of this, but it is him, so he is doing it. And this is just the beginning of a series of things that Donnie is doing, and he's doing it for a reason, and we know that reason is to save the world. Even though it does just look like Donnie is just a rebellious teen. So even if you didn't have the dimensions, the time travel and so on and so forth, it could just be, he's sort of taken revenge and he's given everyone a whole day off school. So, but this is important, these parts are important. You sort of need to almost like mentally jot these things down, because later it sort of will click and make sense. It's one of those. We also see the axe. So the axe is on one of the dog sort of figurines. It looks like it's made of metal, so it's not a sort of easy thing to do. And then also the "they made me do it" written in the ground is it's interesting because, like I said, Donnie did do it, but they was actually Frank. So he could be going absolutely crazy, he could be schizophrenic, he could be many things, and there could be many explanations, but we do find out that there are reasons, good reasons, planned reasons for the reason he did what he did at that time in the school. So then Donnie, so now that everyone gets a day off school, Donnie gets the opportunity to save Gretchen from some idiots. And he walks her home, and they get a chance to sort of catch up, and as I said, the relationship sort of builds from there, and she is one of the key characters too. We see Donnie's hallucinations get more vivid. We see Frank again, and there's a scene in the mirror where Donnie's like having some strange interaction with Frank, and Frank says that he can do anything, and so can Donnie. So Frank is also giving Donnie these not just thoughts but sort of powers, I suppose, but there's still the urgency that he's in danger. However, he does inform Donnie that he got away with the school incident, because Donnie was in fact a suspect after he did some writing on the board. Then comes up the topic of time travel, which Frank the bunny brings up. I should also mention that there is a PTA meeting that happened where one of the teachers attacks Drew Barrymore. There's also another teacher, English teacher, for a book that it was slightly controversial, and actually had a scene where the characters in the book destroyed a house by flooding it. So this sort of brought the whole, what are you teaching our children? We can't have this book. It's just making them do things. And this is just sort of tying into what Donnie wrote. They made me do it. And I think then the whole Donnie being a suspect sort of gets thrown under the carpet a little bit. So he does actually get away with that one. Patrick Swayze comes up again in one of these wonderful instructional videos, which I am sure I'm not the only one had to go through things like that. Really awkward, super cheesy and wonderful. And it's actually quite a funny scene where Donnie has to explain a situation. So she's the teacher. Mrs. Farmer asks Donnie. Mrs. Farmer is also the one that objects to the book, by the way. She asks the students to place where the situation fits between the fear and the love line. And it's a bit cheesy because, it's literally a line and you have to put what side it falls under. So when it comes to Donnie's turn, he doesn't agree with the fear and love and having just those two. So he's saying it doesn't fit, and he has a bit of an argument with Miss Farmer. And Donnie's just trying to explain that life is not as simple as that, which is true. After which he obviously proceeds to tell Miss Farmer to shove the lifeline up her ass. So Donnie's dad finds this hilarious, but he obviously gets in trouble again. We then see Donnie goes to a science teacher, Professor 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧, and gets some information about time travel, and the book comes up again, the philosophy of time travel, and this is actually worth you looking into if you want to, as I said, get a little bit more information about what's going on in the film. But the tangent universe comes up, and it does have meaning to the story and to what Donnie is doing or having to do. It will also explain the plane and where the plane came from and what happened and the actions and thus reactions of, or the consequences, I suppose, of all the things that are playing out, and why Frank, the bunny, is telling Donnie that the world will end. It's actually really more about his world will end, but that's another story, another time. Alright, so let's just go back to the story, so where we're at. I can't forget to mention the scene where Donnie starts to, I call it hallucinate, and basically see these wormhole things that protrude out of the chest. He sees his dad has one, his little sister, younger sister has one, and then when he sees his, he follows it, and it takes Donnie into the bedroom where he finds a shoebox with a gun. And we then jump to the 18th of October, and things are still pretty weird and interesting. The other character that I mentioned briefly was Patrick Swayze's character, Jim Cunningham, who is a motivational speaker I guess he's a motivational speaker, and his key thing is love and fear, and Mrs. Farmer is all over the stuff. She's playing the videos for the kids, and there's a lot more to Jim Cunningham, and we will find out a little bit more about his character, but you know, he's all wholesome, and on the face of it, you know, he's just this wonderful person who's helping children, helping the kids, helping people in their lives. There's also a scene where he's on the stage and he talks about a person named Frank who is living in fear, and it sort of just goes through, and it's interesting for Donnie, because Donnie's, you know, hears Frank for the first time, and as we all know, that Frank in Donnie's world is of course the bunny or the rabbit. So I think all the events that sort of happen after that, it's a bit build up, and they're little clues, I suppose, as to what's coming and what's why things happen, actually. I did forget to mention the book Philosophy of Time Travel in Donnie Darko is written by someone that they named Grandma Death, and she's this sort of very old, I'll put crazy in quotation marks, but she's an old lady, and she has a particular pattern of being outside, standing in the middle of the road, checking the mailbox, and everyone knows her for these things. And you know, the kids sort of just look at her, laugh at her, say that she's just crazy. But then when Donnie finds out the name of the person who wrote the philosophy of time travel, he realizes that it's in fact her. And so she actually becomes another key character. So every time she's checking the mailbox, obviously the mailbox is always empty. There is a scene where Donnie is with Gretchen and they visit Grandma, and they visit her, and Frank asks Donnie to send her a letter. Jump to Gretchen and Donnie's first kiss while he's consoling her, and their relationship's obviously growing, and they like each other a lot. They're getting closer, and we're still learning more about the book, about time travel, the receiver, and what it all means. There was also a scene where Donnie found a wallet of Jim Cunningham's, and it's actually outside a house, and we hear Frank say, "Now you know where he lives," and that is also another key thing. And then it's sort of, the storyline sort of moves on. Donnie's still seeing Frank a lot more everywhere, so this hallucination of Frank is becoming more prominent more often, I guess. Then we finally see that Frank the bunny isn't actually just a bunny, but is actually a person with a bunny suit, and he takes off the mask and shows himself, and he reveals that he is in fact a young man with a wound on his head. It looks like he's been shot in the eye. So it's very clear that Frank is not real. So yeah, it's important to know this, because the identity of Frank is also quite important. There's another scene where we see that Donnie is told to burn down Jim Cunningham's house, and he does. And again, it just looks like arson. Looks like something is wrong with Donnie. Clearly, he's just doing all these things. But there is an explanation. Donnie really doesn't like Jim. In fact, he thinks Jim is evil. He has said so many times. So we learn why. There is a why to everything that Donnie's doing, even though it looks like he's just sort of acting out and doing all these crazy things. There's a why to everything, and there's a sequence, and it all sort of fits into place. This is not something that you see initially, but it's the type of thing that you, as you're peeling the layers, you're understanding about the different universe and the time travel and all of it, that these things were key to saving the world. It's then clear that after the house is burnt down, they discover a kiddie porn dungeon in Cunningham's house. So this does reveal something. This guy who's been going to schools, who's been almost like a celebrity figure, wasn't so clean and squeaky after all. So So even though Donnie's doing these things, he's clearly been guided by Frank, and initially it looks like he's sort of causing problems and causing trouble, but as I said, there's a reason for everything. We see that Drew Barrymore's character gets fired, so this is not great for her. So she's always been this sort of edgy teacher. Of course she was liked by students, but other teachers, Miss Farmer for example, have not liked her, and it looks like she's just been a bit too controversial. So her getting fired is quite important, because as I said, she's kind of one of the key characters in this as well. I didn't mention Charita. Now Charita was I guess she's a loner girl, but Donnie's always stood up for her. So when there was a talent show going on, by the way, while Donnie was burning the house, when the talent show went on, Charita did this really lovely dance, which also was just before the dance done by Miss Farmer's child, and actually Donnie's little sister as well, which was quite a good one. It was a hit, and of course they won. Now when Miss Farmer sees that Charita didn't win, it just angers her. So it looks like she feels bad for Charita. There's another scene where Donnie meets Miss Pomeroy alone, and she's packing up as she's been fired, and she has a word on the board and it says cellar door, and she says it's a wonderful word. This is key because it comes up again later and plays a bigger part, so it's one of those seeds and take note moments. So I'm going to fast forward quite a bit. It's Halloween and Donnie's mum is away with Donnie's younger sister. They're doing a show somewhere, and she was chaperoning, and Donnie's older sister has been accepted into Harvard. So he says to her, it's Halloween, let's have a party. And this is another key moment in the whole film, because during that party we see a lot. We first of all, there's a part when Donnie actually goes out with Gretchen and the cellar door comes up, but I'll talk about that in a moment. There's also a bit where Donnie's sister says to someone else in the party, "Where's Frank?" And they replied, "Frank has gone to buy some beers." And this is also another key thing. There's a big scene where Donnie, it's Halloween, Donnie goes to see Grandma Death, interesting name, and she's doing her usual thing, standing in the middle of the road, and Donnie and Gretchen are attacked by the idiots, and something happens where there's a car, and it's actually Frank. So Frank, who went to go and get beers, is wearing a bunny suit, and Frank is now in the middle of the road because he's run over Gretchen while they tried to miss Grandma Death. So Gretchen is dead. Donnie has shot Frank in the eye, and as you can see, something's happened here because it appears that Donnie has time travelled. 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧, by the way, 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧 is the writer of the theory of time travel. So this is where it gets weird, and not everyone really gets this part. And to be fair, I didn't get it right in the beginning. So this is which you're peeling the layers. All these things were sort of predicted, and it all led up to this. But it's still not over, because Donnie still has a lot to do to save the world. And so we get to the end of this film by seeing the events that sort of were the turning point, I suppose, of the film. We see the engine, and it's interesting because as the mum and the youngest daughter is coming home, they're flying in a plane which appears to have engine problems, and it's clear that the engine fell off that particular plane. So now if we look at the book, The Philosophy of Time Travel, and looking at the tangent universe, there's many theories to what this all meant, and either, Donnie could have fixed the universe because things were out of balance, because he wasn't in the room. Maybe he should have died at that time. The plane engine was missing, so him doing all these things meant that he could return it into the right universe. This could all be a dream, and I see this like Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, and I found it quite funny with the bunny suit, and I've been saying bunny for that reason, because this could be a very modern twist of Alice in Wonderland. This could have been a whole big dream, hallucination. Donnie could well be crazy. So there's just many things to it. I mean, maybe Donnie cheated death, and Grandma Death sort of just had to make things right, and by doing so, Donnie saved lives. There's lots of different theories. So that's the end. I know I've probably missed so much out of this because it wasn't as planned and as neat as I wanted it to be. It's quite casual. But by the way, ends with Mad World, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, this is a great film. If you haven't seen it, I really do recommend you watch it. I hope I haven't put you off. And if you have seen it, but maybe not seen it in a long time, I still recommend that you watch it, because even after all these years, there's always bits that I noticed as well, which I didn't notice before. It's like, the thread and it just unravels and reveals even more. So that's it. That's the end of my Donnie Darko / commentary review. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please let me know in the comments. If you'd like me to do more and other films. I do have some other films, of course. This is just one of many favourites. So, yeah, I hope you have a really good night and evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Thank you, lovely.